For a moment, I had no idea what had happened. It wasn't until the vase my husband had thrown in a fit of rage shattered that I finally understood what was going on. He had thrown water from the vase at me. "Make sure this room is cleaned up by the time I get back home," he demanded. "Yes, I'll make sure it's tidy," I replied. It was my fault for having been napping. After blaming me relentlessly, my husband seemed satisfied and headed off on his business trip. He must have thought he could say anything he wanted, as I had no other place to go. His behavior had been growing increasingly abusive. Little did he know, he was about to lose his own home. My name is Maria Hastings, I'm 36 years old. I married my husband, Alex, 5 years ago. We had what you could call a workplace romance. We started at the same time, and over the course of working together, venting about work and supporting each other, we began to date. One thing led to another and we ended up getting married. I didn't quit my job after marriage. Thankfully, my boss had told me, "Don't hesitate to take maternity leave when you need to." So that was our plan. However, we struggled to have a child. "Could it be, Maria, that you're infertile? It's not necessarily just me with a problem, is it?" "No, usually the woman is the problem." There were times when we would argue like this. But after many years of fertility treatment, I finally became pregnant. Alex wasn't too thrilled about the treatments, so I paid for it all from my savings I had from before we were married. I had practically used up all my savings, but I was genuinely happy to be pregnant. Then came another surprise. "What, twins?" Yes, I was blessed with twins. Though the fear and anxiety of raising twins were overwhelming, Alex was simply overjoyed. "Twins are going to be so adorable. Wow, I can't wait. This is going to be fantastic." "Fantastic, huh?" While his carefree attitude did irk me at times, I knew he was trying to encourage me in his own way and it made me happy. Despite some complications during pregnancy, both babies were born healthy. They were fraternal twins, a boy and a girl. We named them Jack and Lily. Raising twins was indeed tough. My recovery was slow after giving birth, and both our mothers had to come and help us. When they left after a month, I was so overwhelmed with anxiety that I burst into tears. "I can't handle both of them by myself. Please don't go." It was a cry from the heart, a genuine plea for help. But they had their own lives, and this 1 month had already been a big ask. "We'll do this together. I'll step up, too," Alex persuaded me, and I somehow managed to regain my composure. He patted my head, saying, "You're not alone, Maria," and it gave me a moment of relief. But it didn't take long for the truth to hit me. Alex was all talk. The idea of raising them together was a pipe dream. He wouldn't lift a finger unless I asked him to. Taking initiative was apparently too big of an ask for him. There were even times when he refused to help, even when I begged him to. "Change Jack's diaper, please. I'm nursing Lily right now." Yeah, no, I can't. This kid did a number 2. Maria, you do it." My husband flatly refused to change the diaper. "No, I told you, I'm nursing." "Well, you can go when you're done. Modern diapers are great, he can wait. The smell is making me nauseous. I think I'm gonna throw up, I need to take a break." "What?" "Hey, wait a minute, Alex." This was what parenting was to my husband, doing only what he felt like doing, when he felt like doing it. In the end, I had no choice but to do it all by myself. By the time the twins turned 1, I decided to return to work. We lived in a rural area, and luckily both kids got into daycare. It was my first time back at work in a long time, but everyone, including my coworkers, was kind. Despite returning to work, I felt as though I had become a rookie. Many people sympathized with me, saying how tough it must be to balance work and childcare. But honestly, it was easier after my babies started daycare. During lunch breaks, I could eat without worrying about the twins, and I could even have conversations with my coworkers. Single-handed parenting was harder for me. But there were also troubling matters. The children's health issues. Inevitably, sudden early leave or time off increased, and every time, I had to apologize to those around me. Of course, I asked Alex for help, but he feigned ignorance. He came up with nonsensical excuses like, "It's hard for me too, I had to work even when you were off." When he saw the look of dissatisfaction on my face, he would say, "Well, you shouldn't have taken a job then." And then, one day about 3 months after I returned to work, my husband said this in the presence of my mother-in-law. "Children should be taken care of by their mothers at home until they're at least 3 years old. They keep getting sick because you force them into daycare at such a young age. Don't you feel bad about causing trouble at work?" I wondered what he was talking about. I did feel bad. Unlike him, who can freely work overtime, I am working desperately, feeling uncomfortable. "Don't speak as if you know." I wanted to shout back at him, but I held it in because my mother-in-law was present. My mother-in-law, who was there, seemed a bit awkward, but she seemed to agree with my husband on the whole. "Well, dear, you don't need to force yourself to work. If you're ever in trouble, just let me know, and we can help you out financially," she said. With such a statement, there was no way I could say I wanted to work. And so, I resigned and returned to a life of solo parenting. However, things were different this time. Income. Unlike during my last maternity leave, my income now that I had resigned was zero. My husband's income wasn't exactly plentiful. Naturally, our household finances began to tighten. "Hey, our payments for this month, we have car tax to deal with and it's tough." "Huh? So what?" he retorted, sounding rather irritable though he understood the situation. "Could we borrow some money from your parents?" I asked my husband, hesitantly. His mother had always told us that we could rely on her if we needed anything. So, I thought we might be able to ask for her help through him. However, he grimaced and dismissed the idea instantly. "What? Are you trying to sponge off my family?" he said. "Not sponging. I was thinking we could pay them back when I start working again." "No way, absolutely not. We're not borrowing any money. Figure it out, managing our finances is your job," he concluded and ended the discussion. Despite his response, I tried to negotiate several times when he was in a good mood, but it was all in vain. "Figure it out," he said, but my savings from before we got married had been spent on fertility treatments. I had nothing left. I couldn't borrow money from my own family either, because my mother raised me alone and money was always tight. After much consideration, I decided to sell my car. By selling it, I managed to get some money. When I told my husband about it, he seemed satisfied, if not a bit smug. "I've always thought it was a waste. You stay at home, you don't need a car. It worked out well, didn't it?" In our area with limited bus services, a car was essential. From now on, any outings with the twins would be on foot. How am I supposed to do the shopping? Tears welled up in my eyes, but I held them back. At this point, I started considering divorce. My husband continued to contribute to childcare only when he felt like it. He did love our kids. But he was not consistent. All these issues were piling up, and I was losing sight of a future with my husband. I wanted to talk to my mother about the possibility of a divorce first. But something was preventing me from doing that. It was my grandmother's care. Not too long ago, my grandmother fell ill and needed caregiving. As a result, my mom moved in with her, taking care of her at home while juggling her job. I couldn't bear to burden her with the news of my divorce. I feared it would only add to her stress. So I didn't tell her. What's more, if my grandma's there, I wouldn't be able to move back home even if I did get a divorce. No job, no savings, and nowhere else to go. With these circumstances, I couldn't muster the courage to go through with the divorce. My husband, perhaps realizing I wasn't going anywhere, grew increasingly domineering. He'd complain if dinner wasn't plentiful enough or tut if the room was a mess. He turned into an absolute tyrant. Unable to resist him, I simply tried not to upset him. Before I knew it, Jack and Lily had turned too. They were adorable but had developed a will of their own, making it difficult to handle them. Today, as soon as I turned my back, they had again mercilessly covered the carpet with lines from a permanent marker.
Ah! Not again! How did you get the marker? I'm sure I had put it away in the drawer. Oh! Was it Alex again?
As I scolded them, both of them started crying out loud. It was nearly nap time, so they must have been tired too. Before I knew it, they had fallen asleep. While trying to find a moment to lay them down, I let out a sigh. I had to do something before my husband got home. I was so sleepy. The kids have started crying at night again recently. Just need to go upstairs. And then, my consciousness faded.
Hey, what are you doing?
When I opened my eyes, I was drenched. It took me a moment to understand what had happened. Standing before me was my husband, looking as fierce as a beast.
While I'm sweating buckets working, you're napping? Must be nice.
With that, he threw something next to me, making a clink sound. That's when I snapped back to reality. It was a broken vase. I must have dozed off, and he had doused me with the water from the vase. The act of him throwing the vase itself was frightening. If he had missed, it could have hit me. He probably wouldn't have cared if it had. But what about Jack and Lily? When I glanced around in fear, I could hear the kids' laughter and the sound of a cartoon from the other room.
Thank God. Hey, are you even listening?
Yes. I answered my husband, my gaze still lowered.
God, I envy you. I'm working my tail off, and you're napping. Must be nice, being a housewife.
It was pointless to argue with him during these times. Keeping my head bowed, I simply said, I'm sorry.
Have you prepared for my business trip starting tomorrow?
Yes. When I handed him the bag packed with his clothes, he quickly looked inside and nodded.
Making me this upset before a business trip, I can't stand it. Ah, it's so irritating.
I'm sorry, I repeated. I could see him smirking.
Make sure you clean the room before I get back. Yes, I'll make it spotless, I promised. Did you hear me? Make it so clean I won't recognize it. Remember, you don't have anywhere else to go. Just do as I say.
When I nodded, Alex looked very pleased. He whistled a merry tune as he left the house. When the front door clicked shut and the sound of the car engine faded away, I opened the sliding door to the next room.
Jack, Lily.
There were the twins, playing and giggling, and my mother, with her ears covered as much as possible, crying her heart out. Seeing me, she gently let go of the children and hugged me with both arms. Mom. Maria, you did well, you held on. Saying that, she hugged me tight, putting strength into her hands. Actually, a few hours before Alex came home, my mother had been here since earlier in the day. I got a call from her this morning. She told me that Grandma was finally moved into a care facility. We had been looking for a place for a while, and finally found one. She had called to say, now I can come and help you, Maria. At her thoughtfulness, I couldn't help but cry on the phone, so worried as she was, she decided to visit me.
I can't believe Alex would do such a terrible thing.
We had discussed it beforehand, but I guess she didn't think it would be this bad. I, too, never thought he would go as far as to throw water at me. My mother's voice trembled with anger. Before I went to sleep, my mother was upstairs hanging laundry. And when she came down, the three of us were still asleep. Since the children woke up first, she had them play in the next room so as not to wake me. She wanted to rush out and confront him right away, but she was worried about the kids, so she turned up the volume on the TV and covered their ears. She must have been scared too. Thank you, Mom. My mom nodded. First, take a quick bath. Then we'll talk, and patted my shoulder. After I came out of the bath, my mom was on the phone.
Thank you for your assistance.
She hung up the phone in a cheerful tone.
Mom, who were you talking to?
She smiled and told me. She also told me about her plans for the future. When I heard everything, I thought it sounded interesting.
But do you think it will go that smoothly?
Don't worry, I'm with you. Let's do our best together. She then hugged me tightly again. At the time, I didn't think my mom would go that far. The next day, I was back at my old workplace to seek advice. It was encouraging that my mother had become my ally, but my main concern about getting a divorce was money. I would likely get custody, but I couldn't expect Alex to willingly pay child support. I don't have any special qualifications, and if I could return to my old job, I would be grateful. I wouldn't want to work in the same place as my husband, but if the departments are different, it's possible to avoid meeting face to face. Even if I can't return, I would be grateful to learn about opportunities in the same industry. I thought I'd give it a shot and seek advice. That's why I came. My former boss, Catherine, greeted me with a smile, saying, "Long time no see." Catherine is a woman I admire. She has even given me advice when I had a fight with Alex.
Long time no see, sorry for the sudden visit. No worries, what's up?
I was not sure how much to share as Alex would continue to work here. I thought it wouldn't be appropriate to mention the incident of him throwing a vase of water at me. I didn't want to make it difficult for Catherine. So I told her that I was considering divorce from Alex and looking for a job. I'd be happy to come back here, but if that's not possible, do you know of any other good places? I knew this might be an inconvenient request, but I was desperate. Catherine must have been surprised. That's what I thought, but her response was unexpected. I knew it. Maria, I have something unpleasant to tell you. Can you listen calmly? Catherine began to speak with a solemn look. Her story was shocking but somehow made sense. So that's what happened. I'm sorry, this is probably the last thing you wanted to hear.
No, thank you. This will give me an advantage. Thank you very much.
I'm glad I consulted with Catherine. Under normal circumstances, it would be odd to feel joy, but there were unexpected gains. But that wasn't all. Catherine spoke to the higher-ups about my return to work. Apparently, they were in need of extra hands, so my return to work was easily decided.
I'm on your side, Maria. Keep pushing, but don't overdo it. We'll be waiting. Thank you so much.
Catherine replied with a smile, "Well, it's not just me, I think everyone is on your side. One less worry for me. Now all that's left is to settle things with my husband." A few days later, a call came in from my husband, where I was staying with my kids and my parents.
Hey! What's going on?
He was shouting as usual, but there was a hint of desperation in his voice.
What do you mean? I heard that you're planning to return to work. I got the info.
This must be Catherine's doing. She said she would spread the news around to make it easier for me to return, but I never imagined it would reach my husband who's away on a business trip.
You seem well informed. Who told you?
It was a simple question. But for some reason, he hesitated to answer. Even when I pressed him, he avoided the question.
Anyway, apparently there are rumors that we're getting a divorce, so I'm going to the office right now to quash them. No way I'm letting you return to work. I'm finishing up my business trip and coming back now. Let's meet at the office. Figure out something to do with the kids, don't bring them.
He was in a panic. He acts big at home, but it seems he cares about his image at the office. Well, I know there are other reasons. I texted Catherine, "I'm coming over now," and headed to the office. My husband had already arrived. The moment he saw me, he glared at me for an instant, but immediately switched to a smile. Such a facade.
Where are the kids?
My mom is watching them. I see. My husband and I entered the building where the office is located. As soon as we arrived at the floor of the office, and entered the room of my old department, a chorus of welcome back greeted us. When I looked, my former colleagues, bosses, and subordinates were clapping and smiling, coming over to us. In an instant, my husband and I were surrounded. Catherine was in the crowd. She took my hand and once again said, "Welcome back." My husband next to me looked shaken and had an awkward smile.
Why is everyone gathered? What's going on?
My husband asked with a wry smile. Catherine answered him.
We saw Maria and we couldn't help but come over. She's coming back next month, right? We can't wait. Eh? Next month? So soon?
Ignoring my husband who had a question mark above his head, I started chatting with my other colleagues and Catherine.
What about the kids today? My mom is watching them. Ah, right. They are not in daycare yet.
Perhaps seeing this as an opportunity, my husband's eyes lit up.
That's right, I'm grateful that you guys offered her to return, but without a daycare placement. We don't have anyone to look after the kids, so I was thinking of declining her return today. Wait, what are you talking about, Alex?
Catherine looked puzzled at my husband. My husband was taken aback.
What do you mean, what? I'm just stating facts. Don't you know, Alex? Did you know we've got an on-site daycare now? Eh?
To my husband's blank face, Catherine explained simply. An on-site daycare is, as the name suggests, a daycare located within the company. It's a place where employees' children can be looked after, and for now, there are plenty of spaces, and all applicants can be accommodated.
So you see, there's no problem.
With a smirk, Catherine explained, well, indeed.
But keep in mind that the on-site daycare only accepts children up to 3 years old. So after that, you'll have to look for a preschool.
At this, my husband's eyes lit up again. Well, unfortunately, that's a problem then. Our kids are turning 3 soon, aren't they? Since he was asking for my agreement, I tilted my head in confusion.
Huh? What's so problematic? It's okay. You hear stories all the time about kids not getting accepted into preschools. Plus, we have twins, so it's going to be tough.
As his words mumbled off, I ended up saying,
It's okay. Single parents are given some priority. Huh? Single parent?
With that, I pulled out a piece of paper as if I had been waiting for this moment. I handed it to my husband as everyone watched.
This is a divorce lawyer's business card, Alex. Please divorce me.
Holding the business card, my husband was trembling.
Why is this happening? You must have some idea. I will never forget what you did to me and what you didn't do.
My husband flinched for a moment, then shook his head in protest.
That was just a misunderstanding. Divorcing over that? Oh? Should I mention a bigger reason for divorce? Like infidelity, perhaps?
My husband's body jerked. His complexion visibly worsened.
There's no use pretending you don't know. Everyone else does. You're having an affair with the daughter of one of our clients, aren't you? Did she accompany you on your business trip this time? I heard there were people who saw you.
My husband said, no, that girl is, denying it verbally, but his gaze darted left and right. This was the valuable information that Catherine had provided.
You've been acting superior this whole time. Being a housewife is so easy, isn't it? Isn't it more leisurely for you to dump the child raising on me and cheat? I hated being in the same workplace as you. It looks like you'll be able to leave me alone.
He was having an affair with the daughter of a business partner, even though he was married. He should face suitable consequences for that.
That's not. You can stay here and get chewed out. I'm going home first. Wait! Hey!
My husband tried to stop me, but he was restrained by everyone around him. After that, he was severely scolded and punished. But it didn't end there. I was getting ready to take a bath one evening when my cell phone suddenly rang. It was my husband.
Hello. Hey, Maria! What the hell is this all about?
My husband on the other end of the line sounded like he was on the verge of tears. Actually, it seemed like he was already crying.
What's wrong? I came home to find that our house is gone. It's completely cleared out. What's going on, Maria? Where are Jack and Lily?
I nodded and said, "Ah." Then I explained to him. Actually, after my husband left on his business trip, the person my mother had been talking to on the phone was a real estate agent. Since they'd been saying for a while that they wanted to buy the house, she told them that we had decided to sell.
You sold our house without telling me? It's in my name. I was the one who put the money down for it back in the day. You didn't contribute a penny just because it was old and used, remember?
The real estate agent who got the story from my mother was happy to move quickly on the deal. Moreover, we were referred to a new property through the real estate agent and moved out in a hurry. Even more than that, the real estate agent was actually interested in the land rather than the house, so it was cleared in no time. My husband must have been shocked when he came home without knowing anything.
I was thinking that we could talk about this when I got back. I have nothing I want to talk about. You should think about how much you've taken advantage of others and how much harm you've caused.
My husband was crying and saying something like, but I didn't feel sorry for him at all.
I kept my promise and left it clean. It's unrecognizable, it's so clean.
I just said that and hung up the phone right away. I seemed to have a few more incoming calls after that, but I didn't care. I just went and took a bath with my twins. My husband was insistent that he didn't want to divorce, but thanks to persuasion from my in-laws, we finally managed to get divorced just the other day. Of course, there was property division and child support. My husband became infamous for hitting on coworkers despite being married and eventually quit his job. Now, thanks to connections from his parents, he seems to be working in a factory. He's a very prideful person, so I'm sure he's having a hard time every day. As for me, I'm living peacefully with my mother and children. Every day, I'm amazed at the difference between my ex-husband and my mother, and I never stop feeling grateful. I've come to realize once again that raising children is not something you do alone. Catherine comes over occasionally and plays with the kids. The kids still require a lot of care, but I think it'll be okay given the current situation. It seems like a bright future is in sight.